Good day. So this is one of my favorite units to teach, care of the emergent patient. And so go ahead and get ready for my students. This is information that's not going to be in your book. Some of it is, some of it's not, but you are responsible for the information I'm giving you. And then for all those out there that are just listening, I hope that this is helpful to you because it's a lot of fun, even though it's a really bad time for others. So let's go ahead and get started. So do you remember the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? It's really true. If we can prevent accidents, things will be better for those who are involved, right? And one of the biggest things we need to understand that injury is the leading cause of death for children and young adults. First of all, what do they think? It's not going to happen to me. I can do this. I'm not scared. They're not scared of anything. They think it's not going to happen to them. They also don't think at that time or in that age bracket that they're going to die. So this is something that is a issue, a problem, but you need to understand it is the leading cause of death in children and young adults. The CDC, approximately 12,000 children and young adults ages 1 to 19 years will die from unintentional injuries. So that's something important to understand, think about. And so when you're teaching or you're looking at that age bracket, it's something that we need to do or focus on, especially as nurses. So to prevent unintentional injury, we need to look at home safety. As I go through this, you'll see that I have cited things from a book where I've gotten this information from. It's out of a med-surg book for nursing with Stromberg as its author. And so that's the citation up there with the page number. My students don't have that book. You don't have to have this book, but I am citing it just to be legal with what is being presented. Home safety though, let's talk about it. Wipe up spills and use pot holders. People get burned. Kids get burned, right? Cords hanging down. Put them up, right? When we have little ones, especially, we want to make sure that we don't have anything they can reach because what do they want to do? They want to reach and grab and pull it down. And it just they can have horrible burns. Um, yeah, that's you and use pot holders. I mean, I actually, with the stove that's flat without the burners on it, one time I was like, I don't think that's hot. And I put my hand and literally burned my hand. There you go. And I don't even fit in that bracket, but just crazy, I guess. Anyway, so be very, very careful with any hot things, especially things that children can pull down, or if they're dealing with getting things out of the oven, that kind of stuff, to teach them to use pot holders and things like that to protect themselves from burns. And also wipe up spills because people fall. You can slip and fall and hit your head. You can slip and fall and do other things. We actually had a lady come in to the ER and she had been doing her dishes in her kitchen. And you think about it, I wear socks in my house, I wear socks around in my kitchen and stuff, and I don't think anything about it. She hit, and with her socks, she slid and she went down. The dishwasher was open, and when she went down, her finger caught the little hook that's in there. It caught her wedding ring and literally degloved her entire finger. So there are a lot of injuries that can happen just by not cleaning up spills. So it's very, very important. We need to make sure carpets are, if you have regular carpets, that they are in good condition. People can trip easily, get caught up, fall. Falls are a big thing, and you can hit tables, you hit things, and can cause even further injury. But also, you can have head and neck injury just on ground level falls. So we need to make sure that the carpets are good and in good condition. In the bathtubs, there are a lot of injuries in bathtubs. People slip and fall. They use things that have oils in them, and so it can cause a slicker surface, and somebody else gets in, or they get in, or they're trying to get out, and there's a slip. And when you slip and fall in the bathtub, think about it. You're kind of caught up down in that bathtub piece, and that can cause a lot of arm injuries and injuries in the chest and that kind of thing, and head injuries. Also, getting out of the tub, having to get that leg up over. That's an issue for elderly people. That's an issue for people that have disabilities or people that are injured. So rubber mats are our friends. We want to put some type of grip so that if they're standing in the tub or they're getting in or out of the tub, they're not going to slip and fall based on the surface being slick. The other thing in the bathroom that we need to be careful are water on the floors after showers, after baths, that they're not falling and slipping there. And then we will talk about rugs. Throw rugs are not our friend. I love them. I hate to say that. I love a good throw rug. It's pretty, it looks good in the house, but you don't want to they cause tripping hazards. They can slide. I've slid across my throw rug before. And so what do we have in our bathrooms? We usually have some type of rug, right? So that we can step down on it or step down with a towel on top of it to prevent water gathering on the tile floors, which can be a slick issue. So, but we need to be very careful about what kind of rugs, because not only that, with walkers, canes, you can hit that rug, and what are you going to do? It's a fall risk. It's a huge fall risk. A lots of times when home health comes into patients' homes, they do a safety check, and they're going to tell them to pull up any kind of throw rug that is around, because it's going to cause an issue and a problem. Stairways, using gates, right? We need to gate where children can't climb up and fall down, or come down, fall down. And same with confused elderly. We need to gate it so our elderly who aren't are confused don't try to climb up the stairs to get somewhere or come down when they are unsteady on their feet or using a cane or a walker or something like that. This is just a huge, stairs can be a huge hazard. For us, especially up in the mountain area, we can get ice a lot. And so ice stairs going out your doors, stuff like that, and off of decks, that stuff, they can become a slick area that causes falls. I have done that before, and it only takes one step that's frozen. If you step and you slip, you're going down. And what do? When we go to fall, we try to brace ourselves, right? As we're falling forward, we're going to brace ourselves. And so we either break arms, we can break collarbones, arm injuries, and we try to protect our head. If we're not aware we're falling and we don't have the ability to do that and kind of brace or break our fall, we can hit our heads, have a lot of head injury, facial trauma, that kind of stuff. So it can be very, very, very dangerous. And we can talk a little more about ice. It's so important to be concerned. If you see a very glistening black, like or an area that's a parking lot, up at our campus up in the mountains there, in the winter, the parking lot can get really slick, and they will put down the salt trying to break that up. But you have to understand that when you throw salt down to help melt the ice, to prevent that area, it only goes to a certain temperature. So if you get colder than the temperature that it's supposed to be, it's not going to work. And so you need to understand that too. Read packages if you're trying to help with prevention. But the thing with stairs that we need to remember, gates are our friends. And the other thing is things to hold on to. Sometimes you'll have stairs and there's no handrail. Handrails are our friend because you can hold. And I noticed as I'm aging, I'm starting to hold on to the stairwell, the arm rail, handrail, more and more. I use it going down, and I'll use it going up. I kind of pull myself up, and then going down I use it because I'm always afraid of falling. I think as we get older, we get a little more observant of what's happening. But we look at young children and toddlers learning to walk, stuff like that. They're at risk, so we need gates and stuff to protect. And anybody that is a special needs that would get confused or try to go up or down, we need to make sure that we have something that can block them from doing that, so we can hopefully prevent them from getting injured. And remember, smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, they need to be in all the houses. And the best thing to do is change your batteries at the first of the year. I do it on the new year. New Year's rolls around, I think New Year's, change my batteries, and I go and change all my batteries, and I'm good for the year. You need to put it on a system, something that you can remember. Don't just go, oh, I got to wait for it to beep at me and then I'll change it or whatever. You should change it so that you always are being protected by smoke and carbon monoxide. Those alarms are vitally important for everyone. If you have a very large house, you need to have them throughout the house. If you have a smaller place, you need to, but places also where fire takes place, kitchens, are needed. It's good to have one nearby so that it will pick up if there's a kitchen fire. Also, washers and dryers, mainly dryers, will catch fire, but that area, the laundry area, it's good to have one maybe near there. But carbon monoxide is a big thing too, and so we need to always think about having those alarms up. Gas heat can cause some of that. And then also being very, very careful with if we bring in things. We had the big flood up where we are and hurricane last year, and it was so vitally important that you don't bring in your generator because it's going to put off those fumes and can cause carbon monoxide and kill because they're gas run. And that's why we also open garage doors if we have a running vehicle. Just a little remember that one, eh? So highway safety is huge, and we'll go a little bit more into some of the issues that we see on the highways. Motor vehicle collision and crashes are actually the leading cause of death for Americans in the first 3 decades of life. So from 30 and under, this is causing death, right? What do? We get in our car, and for my students and for myself too, coming to work, we get in our car and we zoom, zoom, zoom ourselves all around, right? Um, we speed is a big thing. We don't think it's going to happen to us. And things happen, guys, and that's what's important. We need to understand weather when we're in our vehicles. We need to understand if there's a lot of water on the roads, it can become a slick. We can have a motor vehicle collision, lose control of the car. But another big thing is these days is cell phone use. We have become a cell phone society. And so what we're finding is that people are distracted by their phones. And we also know that not being a real experienced driver also puts you at a very high risk. So if you haven't driven a whole lot, because what do? If you lose control, we try to auto correct. If you go off the road, so what do? You pull yourself all the way over into oncoming traffic and cause collisions or vice versa. And so a lot of loss of control. Or if we get in a slick spot and lose control and don't have traction, we try to auto correct, or we try to slam the brakes in an icy or a slick situation, and we can create issues. So highway safety is very, very important. But one of the things that we will focus on in this lecture is cell phone use, because we're seeing that more and more. It's different. Of course, prior to cell phones, we didn't have that issue, did we? So what would you think would be the number one or one of the main causes? Speed. Speed's the other. Um, just zoom, zoom, think we're great, we got it under control. And also we think nothing's going to happen at that age bracket, and it does, unfortunately. So back to highway safety, motor vehicle accidents, we've already kind of talked about. That is what we see. That's how people get hurt. What do we need to do? Wear seat belts. Wear your seat belts. A lot of cars have airbags now. They will deploy, if you slam on your brakes or if you impact, they'll deploy out. They'll come out and they can cause harm, but you are saved by an airbag more than you are harmed by the airbag, just FYI. But seat belts have saved lives. It is a law to wear a seat belt in our country, and so you need to put those on. We're really bad about it. I know I always wore a seatbelt. I mean, I was taught, my generation, and put your seatbelt on. But my mom, they grew up when they didn't have seatbelts in cars. That was not even thought of. And so for her to wear a seatbelt, it drove her crazy. And there were times she wouldn't wear it. And I'm like, Mom, wear your seatbelt. So it can be a generational thing in this that they're not wearing seatbelts. But I can tell you, when you have impact on a vehicle, if a car hits another car or hits an object or something, you are going to hit at a force. And if you look at how it works, you hit and you're going to go forward. If you don't have a seatbelt on, it can throw you out forward through the car, through the windshield. You're going to go through glass and then on into the front of the car, have injury that way, and that's what kills people. The other thing is if you lose control and the car tumbles, right? If we're rolling over, a seat belt, because you've got a lap belt too, one that goes across the chest and one across the lap, it's going to hold you in place. So the car, you can hopefully be protected as you're being tumbled around in the car. But if you don't have that on, what are you going to do? Excuse me, you're going to hit your head, you're going to hit the whatever. Also, keeping your car clean. And I'm going to say, I have to admit, I need to probably go to some kind of, I've got an issue with car cleaning because my car has more stuff in it that I need. I bring it and I put it in there. Oh, I might need that, but I don't get it back out. So I have a lot of stuff. In the very back of my car right now, I have a ton of canned and bottled water because I was worried about the storms coming again. So I went and got some, but it's in there. And I've opened the canned water and I can hear it back there clinking. So they're coming out. If I were to lose control or go forward or whatever, that stuff could fly. It could fly in my car and hurt me. And we do see that at times that people can be injured by things in the car. Or if you hit something and it comes into the car, you need to think about this too, is that we have deer up here a lot and we're looking for deer or things that come, animals that will come across, but you can hit a deer and it can come up and go through the front windshield and really injure you too. So just thinking about different things and what you might see, but wear your seatbelt because we know that they save lives. Don't drink and drive. Alcohol does not work with working any kind of large equipment, including driving a car. So you don't want to also ruin and throw your license away from a drunk driving charge and the next thing is you don't want to die driving drunk, but how can you live with yourself if you kill someone or kill a child or something? So don't drink and drive. And then mainly, and I mean, you want to do all of this by all means, it's the law, but don't text and drive. Just that looking down and not looking up at the road for those few seconds, you can either sway over or somehow lose control or hit someone in front of you. And I've actually been hit from behind from someone on their phone, and it totaled her car and it did a lot of damage to the back end of my car. So can you imagine? And we were going literally 30 miles per hour. So speed plays into this too. So I will, this is a video. I'm not going to play it, but for anybody, for my students, you will have access to the PowerPoint and you can play it through that. But this is actually a 6-minute and 45-second video, and this is teen driver moments before a crash. This was on ABC News Nightline, and it's a YouTube video that was shared by ABC News, but it is something really worth watching and it will wake you up because I'm going to tell you something. Not only young people are distracted by their phones. I see people all the time on the roads looking at their phones, I talk text. I don't hold my phone. There's laws where you should not have your phone in your hand at all. People changing music, people texting people, but the distraction is there and the accidents happen. So this is actually a really good video to watch, but in this lecture, I'm not going to play it. But I will upload on YouTube the actual PowerPoint. So if you want to download the PowerPoint and watch, you're more than welcome to. But this is a video for that. And for my students, you need to watch it. So water safety, we're moving on, guys, because there's just so much stuff out there when it comes to emergencies. There's different things. If you live in an area where there's lots of water, or Florida, there's states, but most everywhere where people live, there's pools and there's water parks and stuff like that. Even in New York City, there's pools and stuff that people can go to. So there needs to be always water safety in your thought. Now, there's different kinds of water safety and different levels of water safety, but I know a lot of people from here that are inland go to the beach in the summer and they're there for a week or 2 weeks or a month or however long you get to go. You lucky people that get to go for a month. But it's important that we talk about water safety because you can drown in just a couple inches of water. It doesn't take a lot, and children are at high risk for this. But every day, about 10 people die from unintentional drownings. Those aren't just in pools and the ocean. This is in bathtubs and outdoor things and stuff like that. So we need to be really thinking about when you're assessing something, you should think about it. If you're a farmer and you have chickens and you have baby chicks, you have to be very careful what depth of water and how you give them water because they can fall in and drown. They can't get out. They're just too little. It's the same with a human child. If you've got a little one that doesn't know, and what are they? Big old heavy-headed, right? They get down in a bucket and fall down in the bucket and can't get themselves out and able to stay in the upright piece of that. They can drown in a matter of minutes. And people panic. That's the other thing. So when things happen, you can panic and then you start to flail and you can drown very easily that way, just based on panicking and fear. Things happen. So just remember that. But about 10 people die for unintentional drownings. That's a lot of people if you think about it. Really should not ever swim alone, period. Supervision of children and adults. It is never wise for someone by themselves to go out and get in an ocean or a lake or a pool or something and someone not be aware that they're there or right there with them to watch them. It's very, very important. Don't swim alone, especially for children. Children should be supervised at all times. No diving in shallow areas. I grew up in Central Florida, and I will tell you, we have a lot of little ponds on golf courses and stuff. And I have a very dear friend that I grew up with. Her brother would, that he and all these high school guys would go to the golf courses in the afternoon because it would be 100 degrees in Florida and we lived in water. And so they would climb up in the top of these trees and dive off into these ponds. Now, the pond was deep enough. It wasn't that it was shallow, but just so you know, how when you hit water, you usually think water's going to be soft and you're just going to go in and then swim right on up. That's not what always happens. It is a surface, and if you hit it, it can be almost like hitting a wall. And unfortunately, he dove in and hit it just right that it didn't give to him to go in. It was like him hitting a wall, and he ended up breaking his neck and had a spinal cord injury and was paralyzed from the neck down at 16 years old. So diving off diving boards, things like that in Florida, one of the things that you see a lot in the hospitals is they'll have, in larger hospitals and stuff, they will have a whole area where they have several, more than the average, like up here, of diving accidents, people that dove off diving boards with broken neck, just different things. It was very interesting. I was young when I would go with her to the hospital to visit her brother because he was older than us. And so that we were middle school age at this time. And so, but I did remember, which was interesting because we went a lot, that it was person after person after person with diving accidents. And I want you to know that stuck with me. I still would dive, but I would think about it, just out of safety. But don't dive in shallow areas. That's another thing. My father did this one time. He dove into a pool. We were somewhere vacationing, and he dove till deep and he scratched his entire face and nose. Like he had this big scratch all the way down. So thank goodness it wasn't more shallow because he would have done more head injury. It wouldn't have been more of a scrape. It would have been a plant and could have killed him. I mean, or paralyzed him. Never swim above your ability. And this is a very important thing. And I kind of giggle at this, not giggling at people who drown or any issue like that. But I was just talking to a friend of mine here at work the other day, and she said her little boy, he can't swim. He's little, he's a toddler. And she said, used to you could put his little vest on and his little fin, arm fins or whatever, bands, blow up things, whatever you call those, wings. And she said, but now he's gotten to this terrible kind of whatever toddler age. And so she goes to put it on. He screams, like he can swim. And then he goes and he'll jump in the pool and then he can't swim and they have to get in and get him. And it's just, that's a thing. And it kind of makes me laugh because I've raised my children too. And so, you go through those spells. But the point of it is that remember to never swim above your ability. So if you're not a good swimmer or you're not a strong swimmer, you don't need to be in over your head. You don't need to be in the deep end. if you're not and understand that, just know who your abilities. Teach your kids. Swimming lessons are a great thing. Put your kids in swimming lessons. I noticed I have a good friend. Her daughter grew up now and has kids and everything, but she is a certified um, infant swim coach or whatever they call them. And so I love to watch her little videos. So they just get put in the water and then they go under and then they'll roll themselves over and they kick with their head. And so that stuff is so vitally important because lots of times these unintentional drownings are small ones that fall in. So that's where it goes to safety again, where locks on doors, latches on doors, high. But if you have climbers, they can figure it out and they're smart. They're going to unlatch and get somewhere, and it can be very dangerous. Up where I am, not a lot of in-ground pools, a lot of above-ground pools, still a big risk. And then also too, a lot of troughs and different things because we're a farming kind of community or a lot of animal stuff and a lot of creeks and little things. So very easy for kids. They want to go to water. It's fun. It's fun to play in. They want to play, but there is high risk. So never be alone. Always supervised. Make sure everybody knows their ability. Another quick little story about ability. I have a very dear friend who can swim now, but when we were I think we were 8 or 9, she wasn't a very good, no, we were probably a little younger than that. I want to say we were maybe 6 or 7, but we were old enough to know that we could swim or not. Well, I could swim. I had been in swimming lessons. My mom couldn't swim, so she always made sure we had lessons. But my friend here, she didn't want to wear wings. She was embarrassed. We were at a birthday party and she didn't want to wear little floaties or keep the float. But she decided she was just going to go down that slide like all the rest of us. So she got up there, nothing on at all, and couldn't swim, went down the slide, was at the bottom of the pool, and the gentleman that broke his neck later in life, he dove in and saved her and pulled her up and saved her. If it hadn't been for him, she would have drowned. But that's knowing your ability, being able, and that's also supervision. That we were being supervised, and thank goodness. So there's just things we need to do about this. And then also we have educate on riptides. This is a big thing, and we see a lot of drownings, and you'll see them on the national news. And if you live in an area where you're near the ocean, you'll see that on your local news. But riptides are a big thing. So what happens is in a riptide, it is pulling you out and it's very strong. So you get in, you can tell by looking at the ocean, there's a thing and there's a video for you to watch that shows you this. But if by chance you get pulled out by a riptide, what happens, people freak out and they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. You're also watched Shark Week, so you're worried about sharks eating you at this point too. You know, these things are going through your mind. But what you need to do is allow yourself to be pulled out. Don't fight against it. Pull on out, swim, and then you're going to swim parallel to the shore. You'll swim because riptides are not the whole part of the beach, the whole part of the ocean. They're parts that come in like that and like that. So you can swim parallel, and when you notice that the riptide's not there and you're able to come in, you'll swim in. Also, by allowing you to pull it out and swim, a lifeguard, if there's one on, will be able to come out and rescue you too, or get you to where you can come in with them. But you want to, if you get pulled out, don't fight it because you're going to fight and make yourself drown. You wear yourself out, you go under, panic, and that causes drowning. Someone comes to try to help you, you panic, you make them drown. So not a good scene. Let it pull you out. You're going to be scared, but go on out with it. Get beyond the riptide and then swim yourself across and then in. And you will not drown in a riptide. But we lose a lot of people. And sometimes what happens is we see people get in trouble. I've noticed that the last couple summers, people will get in trouble in the ocean with riptides and people go in to try to save them. And unfortunately, they succumb. Now, we also had a gentleman last year that saved a family that got caught up and he helped get them in, and unfortunately he died, had a massive coronary. So it's adrenaline, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of everything when it comes to emergency. So just educate yourself on riptides and educate yourself on everything. That what does that flag mean when the flag is flying and it's telling you not to do something, or it's telling you what you can do or not do. Know that. And if you don't know it, look it up. That's why we do have Google. Take the time to do your research and understand. So we have been seeing the past few years a lot of rip current drownings. A lot of us go on vacation to the oceans. These things just pop up. And so these are pictures that we're looking at where they're searching and looking and trying to rescue people that have been pulled out. And you can see this is a quote of what happened. A 17-year-old male was pulled from water, CPR on the beach, hospital for 3 days before he passed away. 12-year-old boy was never found, male, and a 20-year-old sister did survive. So it can be pretty brutal. So it's very, very important that we understand. And as we go on in the next few slides, it's going to help you understand a little more. When people drown, we're going to talk about what we do as medical personnel. So really know your CPR. It's important, but also too how to position them and what they're at risk for. When you're in dirty water that goes into lungs, it can cause horrible pneumonias, right? Bacterial pneumonias. And so there can be a lot of issues. So they're definitely a respiratory issue that's going to take place from a drowning. But cold drownings, just so you know, if there's a whole thing about that it'll shut that esophagus down, and you don't inhale when it's super hot. You go, and it kind of does this, and you don't inhale the water, and those are the people who survive drownings a lot. So it's kind of an interesting thing, but it's a very sad situation. So let's keep moving so we can talk a little more about rip currents. So these are the McFarland brothers, and they're here for a reason. This was a drowning that took place, and in the notes there is an article the YMCA put out for high risk for drownings. They were concerned. This is about, unfortunately, we look at demographics when we're looking at we're going to look at demographics when we are looking at health issues and things going on. Because why? Why do you think? Do I care if you are an African American or a Black American, or if you're a white Caucasian American, or if you're indigenous, whatever? I don't care. I love all humans. That's the point. But the point is, if there is a community issue, if there is an issue that we can intervene, then we need to be looking at age brackets and demographics and addressing those. So when I address this is very important. It's interesting. This is a statistic. This is data that we have gathered to understand that Black African American children are 3 times higher at risk of drowning than white children. And so this is an important demographic thing to think about, and something we need to do. What do? The YMCA is there, and we have swimming lessons. We teach them to swim. We get them. And let me just say this. It's a cultural thing too. If your mom and dad didn't swim, if your grandma and grandpa didn't swim, if nobody in your family ever went swimming, you never went to the pool, you never went to the beach, you never did any of those things, then why would you learn to swim? It's not something that you would do. So also, if you looked in different specific areas in the United States, you would probably find even different demographics of people who were unable to swim. So the thing is just to understand that and make it a point that we need to teach people to survive water. And when involved in, if you fall in, I mean, because people go, well, I don't ever go, but I go fishing and I'm on a boat. Well, there's several things that can happen. Even if you're not on a boat, you could slip off the dock and fall into the water. You need to know how to at least survive to get up out of the water, correct? You could be on a boat and the boat capsizes, or you slip and fall off the boat. You need to be able to survive that. Now, if you're on a boat and you're a certain age bracket, there should be a life jacket on you. If you're a younger individual, by law, you should be wearing a life jacket, and you should have those, and you should have enough life jackets for everybody on the boat. That is law. And so going back to that, I'm going to say, if you're doing anything like that, make sure you look into what you're supposed to have, just for your own safety. But these 2 little boys actually did drown, unfortunately. So this is a video, this is a 3 minute and 4 second video from YouTube that is going to show you rip current. It's called the Rip Current Survival Guide. So it's going to talk to you about what you need to do and how to identify and what is to do. I will not be playing this in this lecture, recorded lecture, but the lecture will be put up in on the YouTube in the notes. And then for my students, I will provide you this lecture. Please click in and watch because it's very important, and this is information that you need to see. I want you to also look, when we're looking at this little screen real quick, is if you see up here, there is a danger, a little flag up at the very top right hand corner. There is a danger current. Do you see the little arrows going by? It's telling you there's rip currents. So do you think if you see that you need to be getting in, or if it says do not swim, should you get in? No, you should not. I'm just going to go, warning, warning. Don't think you're the one that it's not going to happen to you, because you just don't ever know. So this is worth a watch. Please make sure you do, because we want for people, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I don't want to see anybody lose their life when it could be prevented. So we are looking at, let me see if I can move my camera a little bit. Will allow me, and this one won't let me do it. It says at the bottom here, just so you know, knee stops body from rolling onto stomach, if you can't read that. This picture is very important. This is called the recovery position. So diving injury, do not remove from water until EMS arrives. Immobilize head and neck, preferably. So if you have a diving injury, don't pull them out. Water supports the body. When you get out of water, if the body is floating in the water, it's going to support, so that it's almost, so if you can support the head and the neck, not them flipping around, because if there's a spinal cord injury, we don't want any added injury. We could cause more injury. So you want to do, secure head and neck, making sure C-spine secure, and leave them in water. Okay. Don't pull them out. People always want to pull people out of stuff, but sometimes you can cause more harm than good. And that's the reason behind it. Drowning victims, unconscious and pulseless, we've got to do CPR and rescue breathing. So we're going to, if they're unconscious and pulseless, we go into CPR, we go into that. If you have an AED present, if you've got an AED that you can put on your patient to read as their rhythm, you need to make sure you do dry off the chest, make sure, because you're going to send a volt of electricity. If there's water, electricity runs through current of water. So we want to make sure that's not there, because we can cause more harm. We won't give them what they need to do, and we can cause ourselves harm. So make sure that's the way it goes. But if they're unconscious and pulseless, CPR and rescue breathing, you're going to breathe for them, and you're going to pump their chest. You're going to be their heart. You're going to make sure that they're getting blood flow. Unconscious with a pulse, we're going to just do rescue breathing. So if they're drowning, they come out, they've got a pulse, but they're unconscious, we're going to need to breathe for them. We're going to do rescue breathing. Go back and review your CPR and rescue breathing. This is in basic life support. This is in BLS. This is your CPR that you learn. Conscious and breathing, we want to put them in a rescue position. So let's say they're unconscious with a pulse, they're not, you do rescue breathing, and all of a sudden they come around and they're conscious, then we're going to roll them into this recovery position. The knee is going to stop them from rolling onto their stomach. So it's important you get that knee up. If you can see on here, let me get my little laser pointer. So if you can see right here how this leg is jacked, I call it jacked, moved into this position, this is going to cause you from rolling all the way on your stomach. We don't want them on their stomach. We want them on their side. The other leg should come straight so that it'll kind of brace them over. Notice where their hands are supporting their head. We can put that, and the other hand up. You want to make sure they're over, and this way, if they start to vomit or anything, they're not going to aspirate it. It's going to come up, or anything that is aspirate, things coming up, we want it to come out. And lots of times with drowning patients, they're going to throw up, because what have they done? They've swallowed it. It's gone in the lungs. It's gone into the stomach, and that will come back up. And if we're doing breathing and putting air in, can make them vomit too. So just know that. So we want to go. You need to know rescue position. and why and when. And for drowning victims, this is who. Unconscious and pulseless, we do CPR and rescue breathing. Unconscious with a pulse, you're going to rescue, breathe only. And conscious and breathing, we go to rescue position. If by chance we're here and they come to and they have a pulse and all, we go to here. You need to understand that. You're not going to just do one thing and then just, oh, they're back, yay, like we see on TV. And then near drowning victims, you want to transport no matter what. If they are near drowning, meaning they almost drowned, they were under the water, things were happening, but you pull them out and you don't have any of this stuff going on where they've taken on water and are throwing up, but they've come up and you're able to pull them out. You still want to transport them, because if they have brought any of that water or fluid into the lungs, they are at risk for aspirate pneumonia of the water that they brought in, depending on what it is. But even pool water is not going to be good. Better than lake water, better than ocean water. But we need to transport them, have them checked out to make sure, because they can have their lungs can shut down. So we want to make sure that they're checked out. Or if they fell in and we don't know what really happened or whatever, they can be checked out to make sure everything is good. So for my students, make sure you know this slide inside and all of it, but make sure you know this one for a fact. So we've already talked about recovery position, but I want to talk a little more about it. So why would you want to place someone in a rescue recovery position? What do you think? I want you to think about this for a minute. We already talked about near drowning, right? Or someone that is conscious and breathing but can go to rescue position, correct? We've talked about it. So that if they vomit, they don't aspirate, because that's what we worry about. Near drowning victims, you always want to monitor for pulmonary edema, bacterial and fungal pneumonias. That's what happens. But what other reason why we would use a recovery position is what I want you to think about. We put them on their left side, right knee goes up. That's how it is. So I want you to actually know how to really put someone in a recovery position. You'll roll them on their left side, keep the airway open and clear, and it just allows fluid and vomit to drain out, which prevents them from choking or aspirating what the content is. What other person or thing would you think? The thought is drunk out. If you're really drunk from alcohol, drug overdose, anything like that, as long as they're breathing and have a pulse, you're going to want to put them in this recovery position, because what are they going to do? They're going to throw up, throw up, throw up. With drowning, it can be the liquid coming out that they've put in their stomach or put in their lung. That stuff can be coming up and out, and we just don't want it to go down into the lungs, because that is one of the biggest risks. But you go to the left side, right leg up, hands up, over, so that it can come out. The other rescue position is let's just say we have someone that's throwing up, that has an injury, but is okay to move. And that's where it gets a little tricky, because you got to be careful. If that's the case, but they're down and they're throwing up, get them to a side, get them over, even in bed. We're not going to go to rescue position if they're in a bed, but if a patient is vomiting or things are coming up, we don't want them to aspirate it. We don't want them to choke. So you need to get them over to the side or upright and things coming out, so that they're not choking or aspirating into their lungs of anything. But think about it. Think about anyone that you need to put this in. But alcohol and drug overdoses that have a pulse, that are conscious or semi-conscious, where they can, but maybe are vomiting or whatever, get them over. Put them over there so they don't aspirate. Anybody vomiting that cannot maintain themselves and help themselves, get them in a rescue position, because what happens is, if you're laying like this and you throw up, it's just going to go right back, right? And if you breathe, it's going to go into the lung. So we don't want to do that. I hope that's clear. It's a lot of talking to just say that, but review your recovery position, how to put them in it, and why we put them in it. Here you go. We've got it right here. Recovery position is not just for drowning. Don't lose a friend to booze. This is the recovery position. Raise the hand. This is showing you how to do it. You're going to raise the arm. You're going to roll them, and then you want to take that arm, go over. But notice how the knee, and that's how you put them in. So this shows you step by step of how to put someone in the rescue position. I do want you to practice this. You're going to have an opportunity. My students are going to have an opportunity to be in lab, and you're going to be down doing backboarding and C-spine precaution. But I want you to talk about or attempt with the instructor on how to do recovery position. But, so make sure that you, if they don't offer it, ask, because it is something to practice while you're in lab. So, Good Samaritan law, this is what protects us. This is what protects us when we help people out there that have had an accident or have been injured, and we intervene and try to assist and help them. I'm a nurse. Should I stop? It's something you think about. You need to. By law, you can even be held accountable if someone identified you and you went on by them and totally ignored. Now, we're protected because the thing is bad things happen. So you need something to protect you. The Good Samaritan law was set up to protect medical personnel and citizens from liability when giving care in an emergent situation. And this is important. Most states have adopted these laws, but not all states have it, and that's something to know. So if you're going somewhere, you need to know, does your state does the state you're going to have the Good Samaritan law before you try to intervene and save someone. Now, I can honestly say, um, North Carolina will protect off-duty nurses and doctors. Um, but there have been times where the Good Samaritan law has not stepped in, where EMS and some other folks have stopped to help, and bad things happen. So you want to do and help people. I don't think I could walk by and not help someone, because that is part of my calling. That is part of the oath I took as a nurse. I am going to intervene. And what's so wonderful is that Good Samaritan law will protect you as long as you do the right thing. Now, know your scope of practice. You don't put in airways, right? Your nurses aren't putting in surgical airways unless you're a flight nurse or something like that. So even though you saw it on TV, even though you looked into it and decided to teach yourself how to do a surgical airway, you are not covered by Good Samaritan law based on what you feel or need to do. You need to work within your scope still. You can do CPR. You can put them in recovery position. You can remove them from the thing. You can learn how to bandage something and wait for them to be transported, and then medical intervention take place. So be very careful with that, because I'm going to tell you something. I was a flight nurse, and we got on scene, and EMS had the patient in the back of the truck, and we were coming to get them, and it was a bad car accident. And someone had stopped, took a pen, and took out the ink and had the blunt end, got rid of that, took out that, and they had, I guess, a knife or something. They cut it to make it a little tube, and they did a surgical airway on a patient. And no, EMS hadn't arrived, cops haven't arrived. They came up on the scene. The patient was there, wasn't breathing, and they decided to do surgical airway, and this is how they did it. And so when EMS got there, they said, okay, who did the surgical airway? And some person said, I actually did it. They weren't breathing, gave them this whole thing. And so they said, okay, so they were trying to get the person out. They went back to get that person to get the information of who and what happened. And they were gone, because this is not in people's scope of practice. If it is, then go for it. If it's not, and you're using, and the thing of it is, and we'll never forget, it was a pink, like a pink decorative kind of Bic pen, and they had made this, and so this pink things, surgical airways together. And when they first got the patient, EMS said that it was working, that airway was working, but when we got there, it had failed. And so, but what was interesting about it is the flight paramedic was able to intubate the patient with a tube actual. So we were worried we were going to have to crack the patient and get a surgical airway, but we didn't. We were able to tube him and everything was fine, and we were able to oxygenate for him. But so the person that did the surgical airway would not be covered by the Good Samaritan law, because that's out of that. That's not being covered. Remember your scope. Bad outcome is not proof of improper care. There are times you might stop and really work and try to help and save someone and they die, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean you didn't do the right thing. You did the right thing. And let me just say this, if you're out there on the road, or you're out there in the woods, or you're out there somewhere and you're hurt and injured, it's called survival, right? And so we need to do something to help until other care comes. The one thing that I want you to understand and know is, don't just try to help and not get anybody else to help, because you're only as good as you are for that moment in time right there, right? So you want more help coming. That's the key. That's the ticket. It's do what you can do while EMS is coming, police is coming, people are coming to help with more advanced equipment and stuff to jump in. If you think you're the only one that can do it, you're wrong. You need to know your care. I think that's hard for us sometimes as nurses, and I'm just going to be real honest with you. I find that even in situations that are not super emergent, but something's going on, I'm not practicing. I'm only going to be able to intervene, do what I need to do, assess, and make that decision to call a higher care. And then the decision will be made from that point on. But always call that, because you know CPR was the first thing we learned. Call 911. Help! I need help. Hey, call 911, right? Because you're only going to be able to do this for so long. And I can tell you, if you've ever done it for real on a patient, it wears you out. I don't care how in shape you are. When you pump it on someone's chest, that is a lot. You have all this adrenaline flowing too because of what's going on. It wears you out, and you can only last for so long. And if someone needs CPR and you're keeping them alive based on CPR, you're breathing and pumping on their chest to keep them alive, they don't come back. You don't have anything to shock them out of whatever rhythm, and you're going to have to do that. Eventually, if you give out and no one's coming, they're going to die. It's just what it is. So just think about that. And also, I'm going to say this, and I love it. It's here on the bottom of the slide, the last thing. This is a piece of act calm and confident. Nobody wants, oh my God, it just causes more anxiety, more fear, more oxygen demand on the patient if they're awake and can see it. Also, too, it does not help calm situations down. It exerts you. Thinking takes place when you can stay calm and think. Now, you can't take 30 minutes to make a decision in emergencies. That's just not how it works. And there's the difference between critical care and regular medical care. There's times you make quick decisions in medical, but in critical care, you have to jump in and make a decision quickly. And that's why there's a lot of, you'll find a lot of, I'm trying to think of the name of it, protocols. You'll see written and doctors have signed off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because you need to make a decision. If someone's having breathing issues and you're in the hospital, you need to make a decision. You can't just wait till they code. You want to call a rapid response. You want to put oxygen 2 liters at least on them. You want to start to make those moves, calling a doctor, getting things going, because if you wait, they're going to die. It's as simple as that. So stay calm and stay confident. So general rules for first aid. There was a table in this book, table 45-1. You're not going to see the table. If you are in a book that has general first aid information, just look at it, but I'm going to cover it. So don't freak out that you don't have access to this to see. But always survey the area first. You don't want to become a victim yourself. So you want a scene to be safe. Is the scene safe? You have someone laying down and there's electrical lines in the ground. You don't want to run up on that patient. They've been electrocuted most likely. And if that's the case and you start to go to them and touch them or get into that area, you can be electrocuted. Same with meth labs, stuff like that. If there's an explosion of a meth lab, and you inhale, there's poisons coming out, it'll kill you. You just don't need to become a victim. Also, too, you want to survey if there's a shooting or a stabbing or something, that has been a crime that has happened. You want to make sure that you're safe. Um, because if not, you become a victim. You're not going to help this person at all. You now have added more weight and burden to the emergency system to save you or fix you. So always scene safe. Always survey your area first. If it's a snake bite, look, because just because the patient's down or the person's down doesn't mean the snake's not dead. It might be right there going to strike you too. Or if there's whatever, you don't know. So you want to always survey the area first. And that's that staying calm. You want to calm, let me take a look. Look around, smell. You smell anything? Because these things are what protect us. And so you want to make sure. Always think spinal cord injuries. Um, you want you want to be calm, but think spinal cord injuries, because if you move someone, you can cause more trauma to the spinal cord. You can actually paralyze the patient or kill the patient if you move them, than if you can go ahead and C-spine protect, immobilize the head and the neck, making sure that they're not moving, because if they've got a little small fracture or bulging something in the neck due to the injury and you let them turn their head or something, that can cause it to shift. And they've had patients that people that have come in with people that have been in car accidents and their loved one is injured horribly, but they're up talking, they've been walking on the scene, and they finally sit down. There's different kind of spinal cord fractures that can be burst fractures that can take place. And so they sit down and shift, and when they shift, it moves and paralyzes them. And they were never, that's why we want to always rule out the injury. So C-spine is always important. Let's make sure there's no head or neck injuries or spinal cord injuries. So always think when you see someone down that it could be a spinal cord, what's going on. That's why you want to say to anybody that's standing by, anybody that's witnessed, what happened? Does anybody know what happened? It really will tell you a lot. Check to each victim before administering care, then prioritize. So if you have more than one person down, this is where triage is going to take place. You want to triage your patients. If you've got someone sitting there and they're like, oh my gosh, I've cut my leg, and it's down in the lower part of their leg, it's not near a major vessel, they're probably bleeding, I'm sure it hurts, but they're talking to you, they're breathing, they're upset about their leg, but you have someone over here that's gray, not talking, not moving, faint pulse, not breathing, whatever. They're going to take priority, right? You're going to have to prioritize your care. You always want to use a calm tone and short sentences. Fake it till you make it. You're going to be freaking out on the inside, of course. You always are. You're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What's happening? What's happening? But you want to stay calm for them, because if you create a fear or create havoc of what's going on, you're not going to help your patient. You're going to cause more harm. They're going to get fearful. They're not going to stay calm. We know what happens with fear. Heart rate goes up. Heart rate goes up. It'll increase the oxygen demand of the body. It needs more oxygen to live. If you already are compromised or something's going on, we don't need any more, right? We don't need any more added issue. So stay calm. It's okay. Let's sit down. Stay calm. Look at me. Many times I've said, I want you to look at me, to my patient. Look at me. Now listen to me. I want you to just take deep breaths. I'm here with you. That calm tone, direct, short sentences. They don't need to know a paragraph, because if you say, I need you to sit down, and then I want you to go ahead and move yourself over, and then I want you to pull your leg up, and I want you to tell me what happened, and did you eat any food before this, or who else was in the car, what else happened, and you keep doing that, It's not going to do anything but confuse them and cause them to have more anxiety and fear. Plus, they're trying to figure out, and you're not going to get the information you need. Um, do not move the victim unless in danger. So if a person is down somewhere, as long as they're not going to be hit by a car, if they're in water or something where electrical current could get them, if there is a something that's a bee's nest that they've fallen in, we need to get them out and away from that due to stings, bug bites and stings, that kind of stuff that can cause anaphylaxis. But if not, you need to go ahead and, do C-spine precaution and wait till someone gets there. I was in downtown Jonesboro, Tennessee for Storytelling Festival, and people knew I was a nurse that lived there. And a gentleman had a seizure and fell down on the sidewalk and it was a ground level fall, and he was seizing. Don't know why, don't know what, but they came and got me and said, could you come check this guy? We're worried about him. He's seizing. So I said, yes, I need you to go ahead and call 911. And so I got over there, and we had 911 on the thing, and I'm telling them what's going on. And so I went ahead and had a friend who was a nurse, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and take C-spine precautions because he's a ground level fall. It was like he fell, whatever. So I went ahead and got C-spine, and I'm looking at his pupils. She's talking to the family. She's talking to him. I'm assessing, is he breathing? He is. And I'm telling her, I'm like, I see rise and fall of the chest. He has got a respiratory rate of 12. His pupils are pinpoint, just some different things. Or I can't remember. I think his pupils were equal and reactive, but they were equal, and that's what I wanted to make sure. And so anyway, long story, calm tone, short sentences. Don't move them. C-spine precaution always. If you are not sure what happened, think spinal cord injury, and I don't want them moving. They need to lay still. We told him do not move when he came around. I said, I'm holding your neck and your head till we can make sure you're okay because you took a fall and we are worried that you could have maybe injured yourself. And once they understand that, or you're talking to them and keeping them calm, they'll do. But if you're just holding them and you don't say anything calm to them, and you're not doing, and you're just looking at them like this, they're going to think you're accosting them or you're hurting them. And so you need to be that and think that way. Look for medical alert bracelets or necklaces. If you have a issue, you're allergic to something major and causes anaphylaxis, if you have you're an epileptic and you have seizures. This guy was an epileptic. He did have a bracelet on. You need to make sure you have one. If you don't have one, get one because it helps if something happens. The problem with him is he hadn't eaten all day. He was feeling a little shaky, a little thing, and it caused him to have a seizure. He was an epileptic, but he ended up with a low blood sugar that they think triggered his seizure activity. When he finally was able to really talk once he was at the hospital and stuff, found out that he had skipped his medicines for the day. He forgot them at home. He was selling stuff at the little festival, and he had not taken his medicine, had not eaten, and then this triggered the seizure. So it was kind of an interesting thing. But they came back the next day. The family thanked me and others, and told us what happened. So we were glad he got care. And then the other thing is NPO. Don't give them anything to eat or drink. If they're unconscious or they have a change in level of consciousness, or a surgical patient. And I add that in because one of the things I want to reiterate to you is if you have a patient going to surgery, nothing's worse is you don't make them NPO after midnight, because what happens is if they eat, they'll have to cancel the surgery. We're worried about throwing up, things happening, and aspiration. So NPO, nothing by mouth, that's what that stands for. Nothing by mouth. If they're unconscious, don't try to give them anything. If you suspect a low blood sugar, you don't need to be trying to cram food in their mouth. They're going to choke or aspirate on it if they're unconscious. If they have a change in level of consciousness, they cannot maintain airway, or you are concerned then you don't want to put anything in that mouth because it's not going to go in the right place and can cause them more harm. They can choke, they can aspirate, those things. And then, of course, a surgical candidate, they're going to be intubated, laid flat. We don't want anything on the stomach that could come up. Excuse me, I had a sneeze. Not good, eh? Anyway, I hope this helps. Just remember, stay calm. I want you to always remember that. And then you need someone to be in charge. Okay, you can't have 100 chiefs and one little Indian doing the work. You need one person to be talking calmly, directing everyone. You do this, you do that. When we went into that situation, I immediately said, we felt for pulse. We've got a pulse. He is breathing. I'm going to go. And I said, I'm going to take C-spine and I'm going to do. And that puts me in charge. Usually the person that's holding C-spine's in charge. Not always, though, because if you have someone that can hold C-spine and make sure, there's no head or neck injury, then you might be the one that needs to be in charge. But one person needs to be in charge. And that helps. That leadership helps guide. And so things don't become chaotic and crazy. I hope this helps.